Well, hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I've got a time lapse that I did this morning from night to day with the moon that was up and then went down during the time lapse, and we should have the Milky Way in here, and then it also got the sunrise. So hold your horses and we'll try to work on this together. Okay, welcome back. Now we have already brought the photos in, and I used the importer. Let me make this where you can see it on here. To save time, I went ahead and imported it. I'm going to try to move it where we can see it. Okay, so typically you have your card here and you select, I select don't import JPEG, so sometimes the Timelapse View will put those on there, and then I rename them to the date time. That'll create a new name. I do not convert to DNG, and I don't create a subfolder. What I do is go up, I put everything on my L drive, and whichever drive you use for your time lapse, I right click and create a new folder, and then I name that folder, which I named this one 49, which is Highway 49 on 225. When you go down here to where you imported those folders and just click on this, and it will initialize your photos and bring them in. Now the first thing I'm going to do is a Keyframe Wizard. Now it's automatically asking for 17 keyframes, which seems like a lot, but you won't have to really edit a whole lot of those. But I'm going to show you on this timeline here that the moon was up, but then the moon, you can see it starting to go down here, and it's getting darker, and then the moon goes down. Then it gets dark. Well, it's not long after that the sun starts coming up. So we should have the Milky Way in there at some point, a little bit, because the Milky Way is only visible here between like 3:30 and 5:15. Now, the Holy Grail Wizard is where you have these jumps. These jumps are from where my Timelapse View was ramping the night to day, or day to night, depending on what you're doing. And the main thing is hit the save button. So we've hit the save button. And now I already have Lightroom open to import behind it. So I'm going to just drag this down to Lightroom and let go, and it's going to open in Lightroom. Always make sure you're on add, not copy or DNG, and it's going to find that folder that you imported them on, and it's going to add that to your catalog in Lightroom. So I'm going to hit import, go down to filter, and you want to look at the keyframes only. So now we have all the keyframes that are flagged with 4 stars in here. Well, the next thing I'm going to do is go to develop mode, and I'm going to work on this one. Now this one, the moon was actually up, so we can see on the grass here. So now, since the moon's up, we're going to see this. It may have overexposed a little bit, so you can bring it down and make it look more like night. Now, we're shooting at 2500 ISO, so one thing I'd want to do next is go into detail and bring my noise reduction up. I usually bring it up to about 30 with 4000, so I figure around 26 is good. Okay, so other things, I might bring up the clarity a little bit, bring up the vibrance a little bit. So now I'm going to hit shift, and I'm going to go up to scripts, and that's going to copy that to the next photo. And I like to look at this down here because make it a little bigger, because you can see and kind of see what you're heading towards. Now let's go back into this second one. I don't think there's going to be a lot of change here. Looks about normal. Still got 2500 ISO. So it's going to now transfer those to this one. This one's still at 8 seconds, so we're still kind of the same here. Now we're moving. I know you can't see it in here, but we're actually moving. This one still looks good. We're going to shift click the next one. The next one actually looks a little bit lighter, so we're starting to get some sun coming up. Let's go ahead and shift this. And let's go to this one. We're starting to get sun up, so that tells me I probably, you can see how the bottom's getting darker because the moon's going down while the sun's starting. You start to see a little bit of that. So I might bring it up just a little bit. My ISO, let's check it. Still at 2500, 8 seconds. So let's go down to the details and drop this noise reduction down by about half, because we start at 2500. and warm up the sky just a hair, because we want to make these colors pop. So you can warm this up a little bit. We don't want to go too far with that. So that looks good to me. So let's shift click this one. And again, the time on this one was 6:07. So we're starting to see sunrise and the moon's gone down now. So shift click to this one. Then we're going to go down in daytime here. And typically with the Timelapse Plus View, and we're just 7 or 8 minutes from sunrise. So I'm going to lighten it up a good bit more, because typically with the Timelapse Plus View, and I already see something I forgot to set, but we'll set that later. I did forget something, but we're going to do that later when we come back into Lightroom. What we're going to do is shift click all these. So now I've selected all these. I'm just going to hit Control or Command S, and that's going to save all these settings up here to, you just saw it flipped as fast. Now we're going to go back to LRTimelapse and reload all those settings. It takes a while, and I'll come back and cut this out so you won't have to watch paint dry. Okay, I'm back. The paint's about dry. I was doing 893 photos. This came out of Lightroom with A7R3, and they're all raw files, so it just finished up. It took about 12 or 13 minutes to render the visualized previews, which has to render it all out so you can actually see it now. You typically do the flickers about 10. You can do more if it's worse, but this one's not that bad. It is going to show this a little smoother right in here, but I also do 2 passes. So I'm going to go ahead and apply, and just so you know, about 7 minutes. So to do 2 of them. So now we go back to Lightroom, and this time one of the first things you want to do is right click on the photo and go to folder and library. The thing is, you want to go to the filters and make the full sequence. Now, so we got all the ones in here, and so we want to Control A or Command A to select all the photos. Then you go to metadata and read metadata from files. This will take a couple of minutes, but what it's doing is reading all the information that it has smoothed out throughout your keyframes. Now, the one thing that I did not do when I did this was my lens correction. You saw it when we got down to the bottom. We had some well, it hasn't read the metadata yet, but we had some vignetting in the corners. So I'm going to fix that here next after this gets done, and show you how to do that without messing up all the ones. Go to develop mode, and on the first one I'm going to do the lens correction. Sync settings, I'm going to clear all of them, uncheck all of them, but the only thing I want to do is the lens correction. I want to do that to all of them. I can do that now. Let's synchronize that. It's going to synchronize that one thing. It's not going to change anything else that I did in my keyframes. It's just going to make the lens correction on all of them. So it's okay to do that. When I'm done with that, I'm going to go to export, and I'm going to change from where I was at the last time to LRTimelapse. I use these default settings, but if you want to do a higher res with TIFF and things, you can do that. I can't really tell a big difference myself. Now, I haven't been taking them to After Effects, so that may make a difference for it. Now, we're going to prepare to export. Well, okay, I'm back, and oddly enough, it took 21 and a half minutes to render out this video. So we're going to flip back over to LRTimelapse, and this is what you get back in there. It's basically where you export your video out after you do your intermediary files, and you leave the settings pretty much the same. I put it on very high. Now right here, this will tell you your frame rate, but it'll also tell you how many seconds you'll get. If you want that longer, you can go like a half speed, and it'll render out in 59 seconds. But typically a time-lapse video like this, 29 seconds is enough. I don't like watching a time lapse for 2 or 3 minutes or anything like that. It's just boring unless it's different clips. So when we hit render video, this is going to go pretty quick, and it goes faster now that I've got the new computer. So we're going to watch this. It's only going to take a minute. If it looks like it's going to take a long time, I might, sit here and so here in just a second we'll go and look at that video. Thanks for joining in.